is with your new group, we want you guys to have a conversation or a quick chat about what is self-regulation and why is self-regulation important. So just quickly in your groups, jot down what is self-regulation to you guys, what's your definition of it, and why is it important? All right. On the blank paper and on the blank paper.
Oh, the blank.
Yeah, you can just record notes on that one if you want.
Right on.
Self-regulation. What is it? Come on.
You asking me?
Yeah, come on. I know what it is. So management.
Managing your emotions, managing
Yes.
yeah, you know,
Emotions.
Recognizing emotion.
recognizing, yes, understanding it. You know,
Understanding. Emotion.
yeah.
Also naming them, hey, so
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
feeling frustrated now.
Yeah. 'Cause I mean,
Able.
yeah, because I know our kids, they only know the basic happy, sad, angry.
Yeah.
You know?
Able to name emotion.
Oh, okay.
And so why is self-regulation important? So that the child can cope and manage, can understand and not lose money. Eh?
So manage.
So basically, I suppose, recognize the triggers. You know, like if you're running late, so for example, Erin, you're going to the hospital with your wife and every traffic light catches you, how do you keep yourself calm?
Yeah, that's
Just
right.
breathing and understanding. There's nothing you can do about it, but you can calm yourself.
Is it only emotions? Is it only emotions? Self-regulation? Is it only...
Well, thoughts. Thoughts can lead to emotion.
Yeah.
That's a massive one.
Yeah.
Being able to know
Recognize the triggers. Yeah.
what sets you off.
Yeah. I think so, yes.
I think you probably would have learned about name and tame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a lot of allowing them to get it all out.
We'll see how we go. All right, thank you. It sounds like you guys are having some really good conversations about it.
Excuse me.
So, here's a definition of self-regulation: the ability to understand and manage your behaviour and your reactions to feelings and things happening around you. And I heard a really cool conversation here about, you know, thoughts and emotions, and we're going to unpack that further as well. So, there's lots of names for self-regulation. Self-control, self-management, impulse control, and it is defined as the best state of alertness of both the body and emotions for a specific situation. Now, a person who can self-regulate is able to remain calm and organised in a stressful situation. That's us as teachers, right, on a daily basis. Cheer themselves up after a disappointment, emotional regulations, these are just examples. Knows when they are experiencing sensory overload and can make adjustments. And I heard you guys talking too about recognising triggers. So knowing when you need to change things up. Understands when it's appropriate to cheer and shout and when to be quiet. So social cognition. Those are just all different examples.
And also just interesting, who do you think, if you think about yourself, who's good at doing all of these things? Because I don't think I think I could do some work around chilies myself.
Yeah.
So
Depends
it's
on
not
how
just
much
for our kids, it's also for us.
Depends on the situation.
Sleep is massive.
Okay, so how important is self-regulation? Well, it is self-control predicts life outcomes. They. Oh, okay. Renee's an expert on
I
this.
just say this because I put this slide in. So does anyone know about the Dunedin study? And it's the longitude study, and they showed that the biggest predictor, biggest predictor of outcome of success in later life was your level of self-control between the ages of 3 and 5. So success at the age of 32 means that you financial stability, your criminality, so not having like a criminal record, also your health, with different health conditions, obesity and that. So that directly relates to your level of self-control between the ages of 3 and 5. And that's regardless of your IQ and regardless of your social-economic status. Okay, so it's the biggest income and indicator of success for our kids. Okay, so it's really, really important.
And that's why it's important that we invest time in it and we know how to give our students the resources and tools to build on. Cool. So, before we can learn how to self-regulate, we need to co-regulate. Has anyone? Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. So now, on a new piece of paper, with your buddies, chat about co-regulation. What is co-regulation, and why is co-regulation important? What's the difference between co-regulation and self-regulation?
Co means more than one.
Yeah. So two or more.
Is it more speaking about your experience as well, and then learning from the other person?
Just proximity.
Yeah, proximity.
We were taught that proximity was a massive. Just sitting.
Think about your little baby.
Yeah.
When your little baby wants a chocolate and he can't have one, he's going to cry and howl and perform.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to say, I know you're feeling disappointed right now, and you'll help him to understand why.
Yeah, I can't have it. What the reason is behind it. What the reason is behind it. Yeah.
And like, if you remember Ethan in our class,
I think it's like I had this conversation with today too.
would get anxious about something, you'll say, come on buddy, you know,
Yeah.
so it's preparing. So
I would warn him
yeah, so
sometimes. So pre.
working alongside them.
Yeah. So sometimes you would, when you have a child that is having trouble with this, you sometimes need to give them information before it happens, so they don't get caught.
Caught up, yes.
But also through grief, like we adults, but we know how to self-regulate. But if I suddenly got extremely bad news about something and I was like falling apart, you would help me, breathe clear, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Help me, so that's working alongside the person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a soothing and yeah. Proximity. Yeah. Discussions, yeah.
Look at that. That soup is gonna be good.
Oh, they made me.
Yeah, I can smell it. And then, well, and you brought up experience. Obviously, you
Learn from others.
learn,
from
and then
others,
you were
yes.
able to
Yeah. To bring it across
pass on knowledge.
Would you be sort of like sharing what you felt the emotion was?
Yeah.
Yeah, part of experience.
Yeah. So acknowledge.
The feelings?
Okay, awesome guys. Did anyone want to share back anything that they discussed, anything interesting that they found out? Do you think that your tens shared with your lower
JP?
All right. I've been volunteered.
told?
We were talking a little bit about proximity. That you don't. Sometimes it's just sitting next to the person. You don't even have to have a discussion or a conversation. You can just be present, and that changes a lot. So that idea is that you're sharing the load.
I like that.
Yeah. Did anyone want anything to add or in addition to it? No other volunteers?
As children growing up, how siblings would help with that or make it worse.
Yeah, they can do both of them.
Yeah. And that's
Especially like a twin.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty around, not so maybe not twins, but like the older and younger siblings learning from each other and having that role model, but also the older one, teaching, we know something when we can teach it to somebody else. And I think, it's a big rabbit hole to go down, but daycare is how they group the kids together, basically the same ages and roughly the same abilities, but they don't have those older-younger relationships to sort of learn from. But yeah, that's a really good example. Okay. So there's an example here around how you could describe co-regulation. So the process through which children develop, not just children, it could be anybody, develop the ability to soothe and manage distressing emotions and sensations from the beginning of life through to connecting with nurturing and reliable primary caregivers. Okay? So that's me, if I'm the teacher and I'm nice and calm and regulated. And then I've got my student here, Libby, who's dysregulated. I'm taking my calm and I'm calming her storm. Okay? Just by being here and being close, and because we've got a good relationship, I'm helping Libby to calm back to her base state. Okay, and if this video I find is really interesting and just goes to show how much power we as adults have for the children. So if we've got a regulated adult and a regulated child, then we're in a state of good regulation. But if we've got, and also if we've got a regulated adult, then they can share their calm to calm their students down. But if the adult's dysregulated, then that child is going to be dysregulated. If you know, as teachers, we've got so much power in our classrooms. If we go in and we're warm and nurturing and kind, and just fill that classroom with warmth and love, then that's what's going to be reflected back to you, and that's the state of our kids generally. It's in our classroom. But if we go into our classroom and we're, you know, shouting and bossy and just like a real sort of cold, prickly type person, then that's what's going to come back to us as well. So we have a really big impact on how our kids are going to be feeling in those classrooms.
And I think it's important, you know, just staying calm and, you know, not going into a situation. If you're feeling heightened or stressed, like, you know, maybe you need to give yourself some strategies, because we all know that some students or some children, our own children at home, could trigger us and make us feel stressed or dysregulated. So maybe your strategy might be, I'm going to go wash my hands, and the cool water is going to remind me that it's my job to keep cool, you know, or just give yourself something to make sure you go into that situation as calm as possible. Yeah.
And I guess that really comes back to putting your own mask on for helping others. You need to make sure you're nice and regulated before you can be helping others. The amount of co-regulation that we need really varies depending on the situation and through our lifetime. So individuals, you know, some kids, you know, possibly yourself that you talked about when you were younger, are more maybe dysregulated than others and going to need a lot more support. Is that just our temperaments and personalities? Also depends on environmental factors. You're out of your routine and out of, you know, your normal life. So it's, you know, if I don't get a good night's sleep, if I'm hungry, I'm just going to be that little bit on edge for the day, and I'm going to be more in need of some co-regulation. Whereas if I'm well slept and I've got a full tummy. Also depends on the age of the child, the developmental age. And there's this like graph here. You know, when you have a baby, they've got very little self-regulation skills, obviously. So when baby cries, you know, we as parents and carers, you know, we pick baby up, we're rocking, we're soothing, we're singing to them. You know, we're doing that regulation for them because they don't yet have the skills to do that. And then gradually, as they get older, they'll start developing some skills, but they still need you. They still need us as teachers, as parents, as people, as, you know, part of the tribe to support in co-regulation. Even all the way up to adults. You know, like on the weekend, we had lots of plans. They all got cancelled because it was pouring down with rain. Everyone was sick. So we were stuck at home all weekend, and my husband was just had enough of our son. He was just being really, you know, sort of ratty. And I had to say to him, it's okay. I didn't say co-regulation because he probably wasn't in a state to hear that. But just be with him. Okay, how about, you know, can I make you a drink? How about you just go to the gym for an hour, and that will just help. You know, that's a really good strategy for him. So he just needed a little bit of co-regulation. So we still need it even as adults, hopefully just less.
Cool. Oh, this is you too.
This is still me. Okay, and so what does sort of co-regulation look like? And this is sort of like the perfect storm for really good co-regulation and self-regulation. So we've got our structured environment, and that's really a lot where your PV referral strategies and your school values and stuff come into place. We want really clear expectations around, you know, rules, routines. So they've got like a nice, solid, comfortable, sort of a place where they feel really safe. You know, at home it might be, you know, bedtime routines, you know, the expectation that we sit together as a family for dinner, or, you know, whatever it is. So just a really structured, safe, known environment. And then we've got like our warm, positive, those relationships. And, you know, you can't love everybody in your class, but one thing is for sure, and this is probably going to sound really harsh, you can't co-regulate someone if they don't like you. Which is probably an awful thing to say, but you know, for instance, if Libby had a really horrible mother-in-law, I'm sure she's lovely. But if she did, and Libby was upset, can you imagine mother-in-law going, there, Libby? Libby would be like, get away from me. You are not the person that I want in my space right now. Actually, that's probably going to make you feel more dysregulated. Whereas if it was like,
Hypothetical.
she's not here, it's a safe space. Whereas if it was, you know, maybe like a really good friend or someone that she had a really good connection with, maybe her older sister, that's something that she could really lean into and really connect with and just feel really soothed and comforted by that. So we really need to invest in those relationships.
And kids are so, like, intuitive to all that, don't they? They so know when they're liked or not liked. Even if you're giving them a smile, they can see it. So.
And it's often those kids that need the most
love
that ask for it in the typical, you know, ask for it in the hardest ways to make those connections, but they are really important. And then we've got the explicit teaching and coaching around those self-regulation skills, and that's kind of where the zones of regulation come in. And I guess like a really important part is that, you know, the saying, you can't teach someone to swim when they're drowning. You know, when Libby is having a meltdown in the corner, I can't just go, hey, try this breathing exercise, Libby. She's not in that space to be picking up and taking on those strategies. At that time, that's when she just needs some co-regulation. When she's calm, that's when I'm going to be teaching self-regulation skills. So that eventually, if I teach it enough and reinforce it enough and model it enough, then eventually she's going to have those strategies that, you know, when her frontal cortex is properly engaged, then she's going to be able to bring out those strategies and use them when she needs them. Does that make sense? Cool. And
All right, so what does a regulated classroom look like? So on another bit of paper, you're going to chat with your group about what would you see if you walked into a regulated classroom where they had those skills, and what would you see if you walked into a non-regulated classroom? So what would be the differences that you would see in those spaces?
I thought I was regulated.
You thought you were. You thought you were regulated.
What do you do to make it regulated?
Clear rules
Yeah.
on the walls as well.
Rules, expectations.
What about the walls?
Well, you have to have constant going back to them, so you need to have them somewhere where the kids can see it.
Ah, okay, rules on the wall.
Yeah.
That they can refer back to.
You need to be able to refer back to.
Yeah.
You need to
Yeah.
be
Clear
able to go
roles,
back.
clear expectations.
And what do you both do that's so awesome in the morning when your children come in?
Just routine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to have routines.
Make them feel wanted.
Yeah. In the morning, see how they was, or see how, you know, just ask them how you
They
doing.
know what they're
Also,
doing and
show
they
an
know
interest in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they can come to you. I think it's also like they can seek you out when they're feeling
rather than
stressed.
Yeah.
and wait, oh, what's happening in yeah.
What else? No, it's not quiet. That's for damn sure.
That's not quite either. No, not in our room.
Yes, and so a completely quiet classroom can actually be really stressful.
Yeah.
So we need to talk.
Yeah.
So
Would you have somebody sniffling in the corner? Or would you have children coming to you?
schedules. I put my groups up rather large, so they all know. Yeah, so reading.
Oh, teaching.
Yeah, the
teaching and learning.
your maths and reading groups
Yeah, we are
clearly
marked, yes.
marked and visible.
Are they mixed ability groups or are they? Are they?
That, thank God, has
Level
slowly gone away a little bit. I do a little bit of leveling, but I'm not
Okay.
hard and fast with it because I don't like the idea.
Yeah.
Being North American as well, when I came here,
It's fine.
I railed against it.
Yeah.
I was at a school where one teacher had 8 different reading groups, and I'm like, you're nuts.
Yeah. You can't
Where do you find the
get,
time there?
you can't get through that, can you?
Yeah. So luckily, it's gone back the other way a little bit.
Yeah, and not
So-
knowing what's
There is leveling, but I'm not hard and fast with
Yeah.
it.
So they're quite fluid.
Yeah.
Nice.
You've got your schedules, which is your routines.
Yep. So routine schedules,
Routines are predictable. I suppose
and then
you also warn the children before you're going to go and do something, saying,
Yeah.
stuff. You need to have stuff in the room.
Some stuff in there.
You need to have different things because you're going to get a kid every once in a while that's not going to be like, this is not me. So I can give them something. Like, all right, go over there then. There needs to be an outlet.
weighted blankets.
Yes.
You've got that
The,
very
yeah.
JP used to have them like a rock in the middle of the room.
Did you?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the kids used to just step over.
And they
and
love
Did we just step over him? He fell asleep quite a few times in my room. He would just be so agitated that he would finally just crash. And the kids' diet is horrendous. So if you've ever felt, have you ever felt him?
come down to be
I went up to him one time and I was like, oh hey buddy, and he is skin and
good myself.
that's it.
Yeah.
There is nothing to that boy.
Well, I wouldn't know it. Half of the things that you
I don't know how he's growing.
That does happen. They have to train children how to cope with change.
My children come into the classroom and just welcome them and making them feel at peace, I think is just so nice. I suppose another one there would be trust.
calling you my voice.
Yeah, they have to know.
Doesn't mean that I'm angry with you.
Yeah, let you
They have to know where you stand.
Yeah, with the
let you know love them unconditionally.
They need to.
They
Yeah.
told them.
Yeah. It's really interesting roaming around and seeing like a lot more kind of on the regulated classroom side of the page than the non-regulated. So nice that you've got lots of great ideas for what you'd see in a regulated space. Does anyone want to share what they've put for what they'd see in a regulated classroom?
Well, the children are engaged and know the routines, what to
Yeah,
do, so
nice.
they've got a certain level of independence
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah, some autonomy, some cool.
Strong teacher-student relationship.
Yeah, I like that one. I think that's sometimes that can be quite easily missed in the hustle and bustle of, planning and teaching, but crucial. Yeah, cool. All right, so we've kind of got a table here that unpacks it like another level. So a regulated classroom starts with, so this is a regulated classroom and a non-regulated. A regulated classroom starts with the educator establishing a foundation for co-regulation where learning can occur. Whereas a non-regulated classroom would kind of just focus on student behaviour. They've got negative behaviour or, just positive, just focusing on the behaviour, not actually giving them the supports for it. A regulated classroom has a teacher that models self-regulation. So, they're verbalising, maybe naming and taming when they're feeling frustrated. I'm feeling frustrated right now because you're not listening, or I'm feeling frustrated because you're chatting while I'm trying to talk. Whereas a non-regulated classroom, they rely on a student's ability to think rationally, assess a situation, and make choices about their behaviour, and not all students can do this. So quite often we expect so much from our kids, and we think they have all those tools and all those strategies, and it's quite overwhelming for them. A regulated classroom acknowledges that not all behaviour is a choice, that the fight, flight or freeze response hardwired into our bodies can situationally block our ability to choose behaviour. Like Claire was talking before about flipping your lid. I'm sure if you guys seen that analogy. When you flipped your lid, you're gone. That's not a choice. You have lost complete control, and that's not you just being naughty. That's your brain gone into, survival mode. Yeah, so it's activating the stress response. Whereas a non-regulated classroom, they may include lessons planned from existing programs once a week. It is a one-off lesson, not embedded into the daily classroom routine. So I guess with zones of regulation, there are going to be lessons setting it up, but then we'd want to have that language and those discussions constantly throughout the day. You know, it's not just going to be like written in your timetable. It's going to be when you see something, you know, I can see that so-and-so is feeling, you know, and having that, bringing that dialogue to it. And a regulated classroom is a collection of tools and practices embedded as needed in regular classroom activities and instruction time. Whereas a non-regulated classroom, without being taught the tools and strategies, the child is likely to continue to become regularly dysregulated as a response to stressors. And I don't know if you guys have heard about myelination, you know, your pathways in your brain. The more a child goes into that, flipping their lid or activating their stress response, the faster they can get there. So we've got to give them the skills and the tools and the strategies to strengthen alternative pathways. Yeah, cool. So, and this is our last one in a group, I think.
Maybe, was it?
Maybe. We'll throw a surprise in there. We want you to take a moment now in your group just to list all the emotions you can think of. Be like 2 minutes.
And what did I say, Claire? There's what,
1,000.
5,000? So I want 5,000, please.
Yeah, I think I put my hand up for 100. And he said, yeah. So, all emotions.
There's 1,000, but I can't name them.
Name them all, yes. That's the usual.
Well, that's why I'm getting them out of the
Get
way.
them out of the way.
Shy, embarrassed. No, any emotion. Embarrassed. Embarrassed.
You must thought of the opposite.
It's okay.
Melancholy.
Frustrated.
The South African one, cheesed off.
Cheesed off is more than South African. We use that phrase in the
Or
States as
brassed
well.
off. What kind of emotion is that?
Anger. And furious.
But anxious?
What's really funny now is that all my kids are going to watch that Inside Out movie, and they're all talking about emotion.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Fear.
Scared, I suppose, hey?
Afraid,
Overwhelmed.
scared, frightened.
Overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Proud.
Yeah. They can be
You were
proud.
proud.
Yes. Yes. Take pride in your work and
Actually put it on the blank. Have you got 1,000? You just got 1,000, you know? Well, there's so many
I can't spell
variations.
overwhelmed right now. It's okay.
that's fine.
I know that's a bit of a weird one.
You got sad?
So overwhelmed.
Sad.
Yeah.
Don't know what
Joy is different from
Excited.
Are you reading some happy ones?
not happy one.
How about this one?
Heard if there's a list of 1,000.
Oh, I don't actually know. I don't even know if I haven't actually searched it, but we could look into that. Yeah. I think there's quite a few in that How Do I Feel book, but I'm sorry there's probably like 100, yeah, 1,000.
Golly, my children changed with the food.
Alrighty, I'm going to stop you there. And what I want you to do now is I want you to count up, and I'm going to say pleasant and unpleasant emotions, not negative or positive, because that's the kind of language we want to talk with kids. All emotions are valid, and there are no negative emotions, because emotions all tell us something. They're telling our body something, or they're telling us something. So could you just tally out how many pleasant emotions you've got on your paper and how many unpleasant.
2,
So,
3.
oh, there is a list. Has it got 1,000 on it?
The Hoffman,
I got
Hoffman
no,
feelings
4,
list.
5.
5.
We got 5.
Wow.
And then negative, unpleasant.
I counted them at the, it's called the Hoffman.
3, 4, 5, 6,
It's also got body
8,
sensation.
9, 10,
Loving,
11,
loving that.
12.
Warm fuzzy.
Let me see, what are they? Is there a list?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there'll be a list.
And then your body sensations.
Yeah.
Got a knot in your tummy. Tight, tingling. Oh.
5 pleasant, 12 unpleasant. That sounds about normal. Inside Out, man.
Yes, we summed it
It
up.
was Inside Out 1, and then now Inside Out 2 just came out. So all the kids
I
are
haven't
talking.
watched Inside Out 2 yet.
All my kids are talking about it. One of my children showed up as Anger from the movie
Okay.
and won an award for the book week.
The book week.
Should call
Like,
some of them out.
isn't that a
and see if
movie?
they've
Yeah,
got
the
some
movie
of
is.
them.
Yeah. It's not a
Yeah.
book, eh?
I don't know.
Yeah. How many did Dr. Chris say?
Is it really bad?
It doesn't have a name. Yeah. All movies
Do
are
you
based
think?
on books, eh?
Do you think our Spider-Men were about a book?
Yeah, they all come up
All
with
right. Have we all tallied them up? Really interesting, and I did this activity at some PD recently as well, that we had a lot more unpleasant emotions on our list than pleasant, and that's why I wanted you guys to do it, because it was quite powerful, and it just reminded us that quite often we focus on just the unpleasant emotions, whereas actually when we're teaching emotional literacy, we need to teach all of the emotions. You know, we need to highlight and, you know, draw attention to positive emotions as well, because it can be really easy just to fall into those negative thinking patterns and those unpleasant emotions, and only speaking about those. Which leads me to my next slide, and I heard JP talking about this before actually, is how our thoughts impact our feelings and how our feelings impact our actions. And I was just thinking, you know, like, I was, you know, if I was at a party and I was talking to someone and they didn't kind of give me any positive interaction and they just kind of stared at me and kind of gave me a hard face, my thoughts would instantly go, that person doesn't like me. And then my feelings would go, you know, I'm unworthy or I'm unlikable. And then my actions would go to avoidance. I'm going to avoid that person. So you can see that it's a real easy, and then you're kind of trapped in the cycle of unpleasant thoughts and feelings and behavior, and going into those thought traps. So drawing attention to positive emotions is really important as well. And yeah, how positive thoughts can impact positive feelings and behavior. Yeah. Think about a time maybe where you've had a positive thought and how it's impacted your feelings positively and your actions. Positive, yeah. We just have a natural negative bias, don't we? We kind of always tend to go to the unpleasant or the negative, but try and think of a positive. Does anyone want to share their positive thoughts, feelings, behavior?
I got one of my boys today interested in a book.
It's So what are your thoughts on that? In your head, what are you thinking? I'm an awesome teacher?
No. No, it's just he finds it difficult to choose. So I just picked a Dr. Seuss book, got him to sit down next to me and read a little bit. He got into it, and I'm like, there you go, off you go.
Yeah.
So.
And you could probably see in his head, you know, his thoughts, I like this book, I like reading, you know. I'm experiencing success.
I'm gonna do it more.
Yeah, feelings, you know, I'm clever, smart. And behaviour, it's going to do it more. Yeah. So it's important to teach our kids that our thoughts impact our feelings and our emotions. And you would remember that thought trap video that Dr. Chris shared at our workshop the other day. Cool. All right. So,
Video, but we didn't test it to see if it worked. So we're going to cross our fingers. If I just play it, Claire,
the volume.
do I?
I think
Just push the
you probably need the
play on
sound,
arrow.
hey? Kind of doing the sound cable there.
Oh, it's an HDMI.
What are the
It should be all
zones of
playing through.
regulation?
Just click on that little cross there.
Have you ever noticed how complicated our feelings and emotions can be?
That bottom square. There we
We can group our feelings into 4 colored categories or zones
Can you
to
all
help
hear
us
that?
understand them. We call these the zones of regulation. We can think about how much energy or strength our feelings have to sort them into each colored zone. Let's explore the 4 zones of regulation. In the blue zone, we have low levels of energy and down feelings, such as when we feel sad, tired, sick, or bored. In the green zone, we have a sense of calm energy and control. We might be feeling okay, happy, calm, or focused. In the yellow zone, our energy starts to get higher and our feelings get a little stronger. We might be feeling frustrated, worried, silly, or excited. In the red zone, we have extremely high energy and our biggest, strongest feelings. We might feel angry, terrified, or out of control. We can also feel strong, positive feelings, such as overjoyed or elated in this zone. It's important to know that all the zones and all our feelings are okay. There are no right or wrong ways to feel. Having a wide range of feelings and moving through the zones is a natural part of life. Grouping our feelings into the 4 zones of regulation can help us to think about, talk about, and regulate them more easily. What are the zones of regulation? Have you ever
Cool.
So that's just a very quick snapshot around the zones of regulation. But basically, the zones of regulation is just one way of teaching self-regulation skills, okay? But what makes it quite a good program to use, or a really good program to use, it was developed by an occupational therapist. And she just really noticed that kids were really lacking in these skills around self-regulation and understanding themselves, and then how to like move through those different emotions. And so she was really noticing, what's her name, Leah, was really noticing that it impacted, you know, their academic performance, how they could actually stay and be and interact in the classroom. Also around their social skills, it was really impacting, as well as just their general well-being. So she developed the program, and I'll just click. I think it was like 2011, I think it was. And then since then, so she started with just the book, which, thanks Billy, started with the Zones of Regulation book, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, a lot more about that next week. But now there's also, just this year release was like an online digital curriculum, and there's like loads of resources. And if you go on like Twinkle and stuff as well, there's like a real like community of resources available now, which is really good to support it. So it makes it much more appropriate, applicable, and user-friendly in the classroom. Yep. Okay, so the zones of regulation in particular, it's a really effective program because it teaches the like vocabulary. So it gives our students these words, okay, and across all the different emotions. It helps our kids to recognize the emotions within themselves. It also helps to detect the emotions in others, so they can be co-regulators as well. It helps people understand, gives our children time to think about, you know, what actually moves them through the zone and what makes them get into the red zone, what makes them into the blue zone, and things like that. Yeah, and interpreting other people's behaviour, and it's also really good problem-solving skills because it, you know, it's about if I'm in the blue zone, that I know to be ready for learning, I really need to be in the green zone. Or if I'm going out to play sport, it's best for me to be in the yellow zone. It just teaches, okay, so how am I going to move through these different zones, and giving them some autonomy and some strategies around how they do that. But yeah, if we can't regulate emotion, we have to know what our emotions are in order to be able to control them and to regulate them. And the Zones of Regulation program in particular, it really gives everybody in the school, so if everybody is on the same page, using all the same language, we can really be supporting those students, whether they are in class with you, if they're in the hall with assembly, if they're out in the playground, the duty, with the duty teacher, if they're in music, or in whatever situation, all that same language, those expectations around the zones can be used. Also, siblings within the school, at lower school, middle school, can be talking to each other and have that universal language together. It's really good because it's a nice, simple program for kids to understand. And as I said, there's lots of resources available for teachers to be using it. And it just helps teach our kids like really healthy coping strategies, and us too, sort of as adults. There's lots of different ways to introduce it, and we're gonna, as I say, get more into that next week. But the visuals are really good for the program, just really clear and just help kids to make sense of it. Lots of practical examples in the book, but also online. You can grab lots of practical examples. Also in the book, there's a really clear sequence of lessons. So it's like teaching, these are what the zones are, getting kids to recognizing them and understand them. But then, all those other strategies that come with it, like understanding how you're feeling, moving between the zones, and all those types of things as well. But yeah, I just think it's really important that if we're doing it, it's great to be whole school so everyone's talking the same language. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And when you get new students next year,
yeah,
they're going to be ready. Cool. So here are the zones of regulation. So blue zone, sad, sit, tired, bored, moving slowly. Green zone, happy, calm, feeling okay, focused, ready to learn. Yellow zone, frustrated, worried, silly or wiggly, excited, loss of some control. Red zone, mad, angry, terrified, yelling, hitting, elated, out of control. Yeah.
So it's a real, there's what we say, desire. What is it? What's
pleasant and unpleasant
within each of the zones. So it's not like the red zone is like a bad zone to be in.
Yeah.
If you've got like a concert or something, you're out playing sport and you're really excited, you just scored a goal. It's great. It's great to be in the red zone.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then when they're in the classroom, when they're in the green zone, they need to then learn how to come back from that red zone down to the blue zone, or to be ready to learn and to engage in learning. So there's, it's a really tough gig our kids be expected our kids. And so we need to be explicitly teaching these things so they can just develop the skills themselves that they can do this.
Yeah, they have the toolkit to be able to change as well. And I like that every zone, like Renee said, has pleasant and unpleasant. There's no shame. And I think quite often students don't want to talk about their emotions because they feel like there's going to be shame attached to it, or there's an they might get embarrassed. So knowing that all zones have pleasant and unpleasant, and they could even just say, I'm feeling this zone, because maybe they don't want to say the emotion or the feeling. Yeah, cool. So we're going to do a little activity. This is just individually. We're going to hand out which zone would I be in. So it's got the 4 different zones there. And it says all of the zone colours are okay. There are times when you will be in different zones. Think about times that you expect you would be in the blue, green, yellow or red zone. It's just like Renee shared, it's great to be in the red zone if you've just scored a try. So having a think about when you would expect yourself or your students to be in the different zones.
Yeah, and so this is just one example from the book that you could be using with your classmates. So obviously depending on the age and stage you're looking at. But it's just one example of some of the activities around that you can do.
Depends if you're hangry or hungry. I get into the red zone quite fast if I haven't eaten. Thank you.
You need the visual of the zones.
Yes, please. I need it.
Maybe Renee.
You can do it in your group. You can do it.
Oh, no, okay, we can keep this as a copy. Oh, this is.
This mouse keeps doing its thing.
Looking forward to a holiday. Excited. Very good situation, very good situation. Yep.
That times that you expect
What's that? It's good that you're recognized.
Okay, no one's put there. Like, I would have a
Honestly, it really does my head up.
Yummy. What's in the yellow? Frustrated, worried, silly, excited.
Starting to yawn. It's nothing against anybody. It's just been a long day.
That would be nice.
Green zone, won the lottery.
On the lot. That's true, eh?
I won $100
When we got $23 is the most we've gotten recently. Got to be in it to win it, but
You gotta
geez,
be in it to win it, but you never win it. That's what they say.
it gets a little expensive getting $20 every week.
Starts adding up, eh?
We've won, I think $23 is the most we've ever won.
Pero pwede isa pa.
We've won a lot of free tickets.
Netflix. No eating.
You know, frustrated, worried, silly, excited.
You'll notice that some of them are actually harder to think of things, some of the boxes, some of the zones, than others.
Sleeping. Reading.
Oh, when I'm in the green zone, knowing that I was hungry. What did she say? Was she in the green zone?
She's in the green zone because she's childless.
My computer won't.
What about when Evie runs away?
Excited, lost some control.
Like, gets out of the gate.
I lost. Planning done.
How about when my wife nags me? I definitely get in the right zone there.
Oh, wait, I don't listen. I don't listen.
You never listen.
Never listen. You
Huh?
know what wife told
What?
me? You know what wife told me? I just say, I listen to respond. I don't listen to understand. That's what she told me.
Well, I've told my wife, I'm like,
That's what she told me, yes. I listen to respond. I don't listen to understand. That's what she told me.
just tell me what to do.
No, I said to him, when did you become
Stop expecting me to remember.
That would be too hard.
And I thought about it, I'm thinking, oh, this is...
How do you not know where the plates go? What do you mean, how do I not know where the plates go? I don't care where the plates
No,
go.
I have a good relationship.
Just tell me where you want them.
Yeah.
Be mad and angry when the
I'm
dog
happy
ate your
about me
socks.
making the mistake, not you.
Luckily, I have a dog that doesn't need
Otherwise, it would
socks.
go on
He's been actually, we've gotten quite lucky with him.
Maybe think about your
He's not a
your
destructive
classroom and
creature.
your what you see, like with the students day to day. Maybe
Oh, yeah, that's a
transitions,
good
you might see
thing.
yellow
Think
zone,
Silly,
the beginning of the day.
excited. Athletics day makes me excited.
Athletics day.
Yeah. When the kids are playing, like, oh, good! I'm cheering with them.
You cheering with him.
Yeah.
Then would you be silly or wiggly?
That's something I'm excited about. So thank you for reminding me it's happening in the
Full
class.
stomach.
Because I take it personally.
How much are you eating, sir? If I eat, I'm laying down on the couch. I'm
No, I'm gonna be like, you know,
full tummy equals nappy time for me.
I'm terrified when I go on camp.
oh, you're terrified.
Yeah,
Flying.
because in case
For some reason, as I've gotten older, flying
you know, I'm terrified.
gets me.
I'm on edge
I go
for
from
the
yellow
rest
to
of
red
the
very
day.
easily.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's good. I've
I
got
get quite anxious.
Yeah.
It's only as I've gotten older.
When I go through passport
I flew a
control.
lot as a kid.
Alright, it looks like you guys
I
have all
always think I'm going to get
done a
caught.
good effort at the end of the 2000 in a Blue Zone staff meeting. I won't be offended. But yeah, so quite tricky to unpack some of the zones. Like I was just saying to Renee, when would you see yourself in the red zone? And she said hardly ever. Hardly ever. But also, if she was in the red zone, should have like kind of.
Yeah. I guess my
hard
outward
face.
exterior would actually,
Yeah.
you probably wouldn't realise I was in the red zone, but I'm just like, feeling the rage inside, but I might just be.
It's usually my husband that gets me into the red zone.
The mother-in-law, let's be honest.
But does anyone want to share some ideas of when they would be in the blue zone? Apart from the staff meeting.
Well, when I've got no energy for exercise, because I like exercise.
Yeah.
But if I don't have the energy for it, it makes me sad.
Yeah, I'm the same actually. And actually, when you do it, you always feel better. But actually having the energy to be able to go out and exercise, go for a
Initiate.
walk. Yeah. Yep, I feel you on that one. Cool. Any other blue zone?
When my children are sick,
Yeah.
when my family is sick.
Yeah.
See, when my son's sick, I'm in the yellow zone because I'm frustrated.
Yeah.
My empathy probably lacks a little bit.
Yeah, winter's hard. I feel you on that one as well. What about green zone? Anyone got green zone? Maybe you had lots of examples in that one. Green zone?
9 a.m. I'm in the green zone. If you want anything, come see me at 9 a.m.
Okay,
Now we know.
Till 9:01.
Only 1 minute.
After a cup of coffee.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you had coffee
Yeah,
by
she
that point?
likes your tea.
Tea. I think about myself in the green zone. It's usually on my way to daycare, picking up my kids. Like I have that like I feel really happy to see them, and then very quickly I probably get up in the yellow or red zone. You know, 10 minutes of them in the car, I'm already feeling agitated. But the anticipation of seeing them, you know, I do feel happy, and I do feel in the green zone driving there. Yeah.
We have a joke in our house that our favourite, my husband and I's favourite time of day is seeing our son first thing in the morning, and our second most favourite day is putting him to bed.
Yeah. It's funny that the kids can cause us to get into it. What about yellow zone? Anyone thinking about when they might be in the yellow zone?
Lack of sleep for me.
Yeah.
Total loss of control.
Yeah.
Not some control, all control.
Yeah. Like I think I was saying to you, you know, you'll see me. The only time I'll kind of be ragey, mother rage, will be when I'm fatigued, when I've not had sleep, when I'm cracked at the end of the day. Yeah.
I'm
Overnight.
really silly at the supermarket with my adult son. We go into really childish, silly behaviour.
Yeah. I like that. Like,
It's fun. We pretend we're zombies and all sorts of really
what supermarket? What time? I like that.
So what really slow, and then you don't get stressed by people.
Yeah.
Because you spend your whole time laughing about how you're probably annoyed.
Yeah. And actually, the supermarket and malls and busyness and waiting can easily get me into the yellow or red zone. Cool. All right. So, what's next? Oh, I just got to go over some key points from today. All right. So it's really important that there is no bad zone. I want to keep saying that, and that's really important that you keep telling your kids that there is no bad zone, and that everyone experiences all of the zones at different times and in different circumstances. And that comes down to, you know, you're the teacher, you're modelling. You need to model that different zones that you're in, how you're feeling, and the reasons. And what you're doing, you know, I'm doing some deep breaths right now because I'm feeling like I'm in the yellow zone. We can't change the way students feel, but we can help them manage their feelings, states, and behaviours. It's okay to be angry, but it's not okay to hit. You can be in more than one zone at a time. don't take it personally. I think it's really important not to take, if kids are, you know, being rude to you or in the red zone or yellow zone and not listening and not being respectful, don't take it personally. Yeah. Cool. So you guys have got a bit of homework the next week. We'd like you, this is you, Renee, I can go.
So what I want you to do is have a think about either resource, it could be like a little video you watch with your class, a game that you know that you've got tucked in the cupboard somewhere that you can blow the dust off and bring in, a song or anything that you're thinking about that you could use with your class. Could you bring one thing with you next week just to share with a little group? And we just want to see, you know, often we're going to have these books. Hopefully they will arrive by next week.
Yes, we bought them.
Yeah, beautiful. Hopefully we'll have the books available to look at for lots of resources. But often we already have lots of really great resources that can work alongside or supplement these specific lesson plans as well. So just have a think about what you might be using or what you might have in the classroom that you can bring along next week to share. So it could be anything, you know, big fancy bells and whistles, but just might be just like a simple book or something. Okay? So have a think about that, and you can bring it along next week. That would be great. And we're going to start the next session by sharing that within your learning community.
Yeah, you're going to be working with your learning communities next week. So nutting out some resources and planning.
Yeah. And also, so yeah, next week we'll start by sharing the resource, and then we're going to talk about how you would introduce the zones of regulation. So in the book, they've got some ideas, but also there's so many resources out there that just could supplement and make it adaptable for the age and sort of stage of where your kids are at. You know, I think that book, you know, for sort of middle upper primary, there's some really great examples. Well, for all primary really, but if you're the lower primary, you might want to have a little bit of a flexible think around how it could look. So there's introducing, and then there's all the other the lesson plans that go on from that. So you know, really getting them to understand, do activities like this, where are they at, and how to move between the zones and things like that. And we're also just going to have a talk more about resources, where you can go to resources. We'll have a heap that we can just sort of dump with you guys, and that you can have a little sort through on a Google Drive. And then you also, hopefully they'll arrive in time in each learning community area. Learning community. Will have their own copy of the book that they can use and photocopy for themselves. The 5E5 copies coming.
Yeah. Cool. So I just want you to have a think and reflect. What is new learning for you today? Hopefully something new, and just have a moment to think about that. Something that's new for you today. And then share it with the person next to you.
I am very shocked how